This is the all-new 2025 ROG G700 Gaming PC, and recently I had a chance to go hands-on with this thing, and it's packing some serious power given the CPU-GPU combo they opted to use here, but keep in mind they do offer several different configurations over on their website. So you've got options, and the one we're going to be taking a look at in this video isn't even the top tier SKU of the G700, but it's been able to handle everything that I've thrown at it without an issue. And I'll tell you, I'm usually not a fan of PCs with a ton of RGB, but what they did here does look really good. As you can see, we've got that internal RGB ROG logo, and the basement on this thing also has an RGB panel over it. It's all Aura Sync compatible, and this does come pre-installed with 4 RGB fans, 3 up front, 1 in the rear. This also comes pre-installed with the 240mm AIO, and right there on the cooling block, we've got that ROG logo. And since this is a 2025 model, we've got an RTX 5000 series card, and again, lots of options over on their website, but I'll give you a rundown on the one that we have here. For the CPU, we've got the Intel Core Ultra 7 265KF. With this, we get 20 cores, 20 threads, 30 megabytes of cache, and it'll clock up to 5.5 gigahertz. 32 gigs of DDR5 at 6000 megahertz running in dual channel. Graphics are going to be handled by the new NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 Ti, and this is using the ASUS Prime version with 16 gigabytes of GDDR7, a 2TB M.2 PCIe 4.0 M.2 SSD, 850 watt gold power supply, Wi-Fi 6, plus we've got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet around back, and it comes with Windows 11 pre-installed. Jumping into Windows here because I wanted to give you a look at a few things and also make sure that everything's functioning properly. As you can see, we've got the Intel Core Ultra 7 265KF, 20 cores, 20 threads, 32 gigs of RAM here. And of course, we've got that NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 Ti with this unit, 16 gigs of VRAM. First things first, wanted to check out the TDP on this CPU, just make sure we can reach those maximum clocks, getting enough power over there. Got CPU-C, we'll stress the CPU out, and from hardware info right here, you'll see it jump up a little over 175 watts, fully maxed out, and the temps have been really great with this. We've got that 240mm AIO, and by the end of the video, we'll actually get an idea of our maximum temps and average temps. Next thing I wanted to do was just run firmware here to get an idea of TGP here with this RTX 5070 Ti, and yeah, I mean, it jumped right up to 300 watts, and that's where we're supposed to be with this RTX 5070 Ti. So far, everything's been working great, and of course, with specs like this, I mean, we can pretty much run anything we want. We really don't need to worry about it. But before we move over to some game testing, I did want to take a look at some benchmarks, and the first one we have is Cinebench R24, and our single core score is coming in with a 133, I mean, beating everything on the list here with R24. Multi-core, kind of the same thing, we're up to 1,937. This Intel Core Ultra 7 265KF is definitely trucking along. Now it's time to take a look at some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark. We've got Steel Nomad, total score 6,958, a little over 69 FPS with this test. Port Royal, ray tracing benchmark, total score 18,913, and we're right there at 87 FPS. And finally, Time Spy coming in with an incredible 24,748. With these synthetic benchmarks, I mean, we're seeing some really great scores, but now it's time to get into some real-world gaming. Starting out here with Cyberpunk 2077, 1440p, Ray Tracing Ultra, DLSS Auto. That's kind of the Ray Tracing Ultra preset there. We'll just head in here, Ray Tracing Ultra, Auto DLSS, frame generation completely off, 1440p, and the RTX 5070 Ti paired up with this Intel Ultra 7 CPU does an amazing job. We're here in this market area at night, and I purposely go here because it definitely stresses everything out. Lots of lighting effects going on, and we're seeing an average of around 83 FPS with it. DLSS 4 definitely looks great, and to tell you the truth, I think it's probably taken it down to balanced with DLSS at auto with ray tracing set to ultra. But we can get a lot more out of this card because we've got access to DLSS 4 multi-frame generation, and this is the only game that I'm going to be testing with frame gen on in this video. And we're also going to be taking it up to ray tracing overdrive instead of ray tracing ultra. Up in the top left-hand corner, we've got Afterburner, and you can see, I mean, we're up in the 190s with it. Ray Tracing Ultra 1440p with that multi-frame gen set to X4. Awesome performance, but I know there's people out there that just don't like frame gen, especially on a more expensive system. So like I mentioned, this was the only game we were going to be testing it with. Next up, Oblivion Remastered 1440p Ultra with ray tracing on. In this area here, we're seeing an average of around 103 FPS. Out in the wide open, lots of trees around, seeing an average of around 89. But in this area here, I mean, it really takes it up. And we don't even need to use DLSS. Spider-Man 2, 1440p, very high, no DLSS, and I've got ray tracing on. To tell you the truth, I don't notice much of a difference with ray tracing on, even at night with this game, so I usually just leave it off. And I did forget to turn my frame limiter off. I think we're only up to 120 here. But either way, we're getting an average of around 111 FPS. Marvel Rivals has been hit or miss on a lot of different systems that I've been testing, mainly because it's in early access. They have been changing a lot of stuff. More optimizations are definitely on the way, and right now we're at 1440 Ultra with DLSS set to quality. With this, I was hoping to get a steady 120 out of it at least, but we're getting an average of around 113 FPS. I know it's an older one, but I haven't tested this on a new 5000 series card, so I figured I'd throw it in. We've got Borderlands 3 1440p at the highest settings there, right over Ultra, DirectX 12 back in, and I knew we were going to see decent performance out of it. But with these newer NVIDIA drivers and even newer AMD drivers, I am noticing a lot more hitching than I did in the past, so hopefully that's fixed in the future. But it seems to be doing a decent job here on this RTX 5070 Ti. And finally, God of War Ragnarok, 1440p Ultra, no DLSS. We're not using frame gen or anything like that. During battle, average of around 117 FPS. When you're just kind of exploring, it does jump up into the 130s. I tested a few more games and I just wanted to give you an idea here. When it comes to Starfield, Ultra settings, 1440p, that's native. 84 FPS, 4K native, we got an average of 56 FPS, but when enabling DLSS, we're up to 73 at 4K. Dragon Age Ultra settings, 1440p native, 88 FPS on average, 4K 64, and 4K with DLSS enabled, up to 76. And finally, Stalker 2, 1440p native, 65, 4K 43, and then 4K with DLSS, 62 FPS. And with most of the newer games on the market right now, we do have frame generation that we can enable. And the only game we tested in this video with frame gen was Cyberpunk 2077. So we're using DLSS 4 multi-frame generation set to X4. Most new games are going to at least support X2, just, kind of double in that frame rate. Well, in theory, double your frame rate. So if that's the route you want to go, you can really take the FPS up. But the last thing I wanted to talk about here were CPU and GPU temps. With the side panel on, average CPU temps, 1440p gaming, 53 degrees Celsius. I actually thought it would be higher than this given the power draw that we were seeing out of this chip. And through all of my testing, even with benchmarks, the maximum recorded temp was 73. And the GPU temps also look great here. Average 1440p gaming, 60 degrees Celsius, and the maximum recorded with that GPU was only 68. So we never hit thermal throttle. I mean, we never even came close to it. And overall, I mean, yeah, this is a great performer, but with these specs, we kind of knew it would be. Either way, if you're one of those people that just don't want to be bothered by building a PC, you want to pull something out of the box, boot it up, and start playing, I'd say that this would be a great option. And if you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave some links to the official website in the description. Again, they've got a bunch of different options to choose from, so make sure you're getting what you want. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If there's anything else you want to see running on the new 2025 G700, just let me know in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.